Johannes, thank you very much indeed for that. And we can go now to Donetsk in eastern Ukraine to talk to Pádraig Belton on the phone now for an update on how voting is going in the east of the country. Very good morning to you. We're listening to what Johannes Anderson had to say to us just there. And he was saying that he was hearing that Russian insurgents, they're calling them immigrants, of course, but he was referring to them as perhaps insurgents, were flooding across the border and ready to cause trouble in places like Donetsk and Luhansk. Have you heard anything more on that?
Hello from Donetsk. I went yesterday to the insurgents' headquarters in the occupied administration building of Donetsk. The building has been wrecked. All computers, televisions and books have been stripped. Rather intense chaps with automatic weapons and Moscow accents controlling entry. The inside of the building is decorated with these quite weird images of Obama with a Merkel haircut and a Hitler mustache. It's quite funny, actually. And its public spaces have been turned into a sort of anti-Maidan. There are candles, just like in Maidan, but to slaying beer-cooled riot police, and drawings by children showing atrocities they imagine will happen to Russian speakers. These separatists see the Kiev government as illegitimate, with deposed President Yanushchenko still for them the legitimate president. For them, he was toppled in a Western-backed fascist coup, which will take the country into the EU and NATO. They see the two things as one. Now, if Poroshenko wins straight up today by securing his 50%, Putin's tourists, as they're called locally, may go home a little sooner, though some of the heavies who are now manning checkpoints throughout the east may take a bit more offing. So Putin is all the ways of putting pressure on Ukraine not to move too quickly into an economic association agreement with the EU. What he wants is a federal weakened state, with the east maybe enjoying some sort of veto. Poroshenko, for his part, calls this federalism Crimea too, though he has promised to devolve budget and language powers to local levels.
So the polling situation, the polls are being disrupted in places like Donetsk and Luhansk, but just how badly by pro-Russian separatists?
Yes, my sources at the OCE and some civil society groups I've spoken with through the morning tell me that 1/3 of the polling stations in Donetsk region are open, and none at all are open in Donetsk city itself. This leaves 7 districts in the broader region, Donbass, where elections officers have opened polling stations and they're trying to organize voting processes. In 2 commissions in Donetsk, the chairman and secretary resigned, but the commission decided to carry on. Now, this is really extraordinarily brave. In preceding days, armed separatist chaps with guns have stolen all the authentication stamps from the region, and in 4 Soviet countries, stamps really are quite important. They love them. And they've also nicked a large portion of balloting papers. They've threatened to kill elections officers who participate in voting. But all the same, the sunny streets and parks of Donetsk have kind of a quite eerie calm today, apart from the armed separatists outside the city centre's restaurants. One local girl called Oksana in her 20s told me yesterday she's stopped reading the newspapers and now she feels safe when she goes outside. Separatist sentiment is actually rather rare here. It's mostly from people who get most of their news from Russian social media. There's a Russian version of Facebook called Kontaktiki, and it has an anti-Maidan social group, which is quite popular here. These people sincerely believe that today's presidential candidates wish to kill Russian speakers. Broadly, most residents are confused by current events. Some are a bit bemused by the slightly shambolic People's Republic of Donetsk. All do feel that I've spoken with believe that none of today's candidates will do very much for the country's east. They do feel that the country is perhaps more unified in the later communist days under Kuchma. There's sort of a regionalization, an east-west dynamic that came in after the Orange Revolution with Yushchenko, and then Yanukovych, of course, is an eastern lad, and you've got kind of a west-east thing going on.
I suppose that one of the crucial questions must be that Ukraine needs a very large turnout, because that would in turn confer legitimacy on the new government.
Yes, and also if he is able to leave a little sooner. There are some local chaps who one thinks of dissident Republicans in the north of Ireland who may have rather enjoyed setting up their checkpoints. A crucially important power broker here is Rinat Akhmetov, the East's mining oligarch. He's the richest man in the nation and the 100th wealthiest man in the world. He might be 101st. He was starting to get a bit unhappy under Yanukovych, because Yanukovych's son quite quickly became the second richest man in the nation. And Akhmetov, it is said, might have thought that perhaps, though he was a supporter, he wasn't family. It is said that little happens in the East without him agreeing to it. And though he has called to be nice to Ukraine, he's had his employees come out and have 5-minute demonstrations during their lunch period on demonstrating for national unification, continuation of the country. There is speculation that he will do this somewhat more forcefully once there's a new government that has satisfied him that his own mining interests will be protected if the country moves closer to the EU.
All right, Pádraig, thank you very much indeed for that. Look, speak to you a little bit later in the day, no doubt, when there are more developments there in Ukraine. And staying with Ukraine,